All right, we are back here on the Just End the Suffering podcast, talking about the Giant offseason to get ready for the draft. Joining me today on the podcast, one of the minds behind the Giant Insider newspaper and podcast, the editor there, Jerry Foley. Jerry, how are you?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Not a problem. And I'm not the most knowledgeable guy on the Giants, so I'm glad to have you on to help me understand some of the things they've done this offseason.
Oh, thanks. I mean, the offseason is very interesting for what the Giants are doing. The free agency and all the guys they brought in, and then having the 11th pick in the draft. It's a lot more exciting, I think, than most Giants fans thought it would be.
I would certainly agree. I think the thing I want to start with, though, is the one that I didn't understand at the time, and I'm curious what your take on this is. Dave Gettleman, Giant fans not thrilled with him. He's gone 15-33 his first 3 years as the GM.
Yeah.
Why do you think he got brought back?
Well, I think if they were going to do anything, they had a chance to make a change when Shermer was gone, right? I think Joe Judge helped save Dave Gettleman, right? I think Joe Judge did such a good job. And let's be honest, Dave Gettleman worked well with Judge. And Gettleman, the one thing I could say about Gettleman is he doesn't make all his decisions by himself, right? Like Pat Shermer likes certain guys. He brought in James Betcher as his D coordinator. Betcher wanted ex-Cardinals to fit the system, so Gettleman went out and got him, right? So Shermer, the worst thing Gettleman did was hire Pat Shermer. But when he brought Judge on, and Judge brought his brand of smash mouth football, and we're going to put guys in the right places, and no square pegs and round holes, he worked well with Judge, and the results showed last year, especially towards the end of the year. So I'm okay with bringing Dave Gettleman back because they found Joe Judge, and we'll see what happens with the draft coming up, and to see if Gettleman can kind of continue what he's been able to build a little bit with Judge here.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, Gettleman had a lot of things to do this offseason. Start with the Leonard Williams situation. They put the tag on him. They ended up signing to the long-term contract. I think that's a deal they had to make. When you saw the numbers, what was your reaction to the Leonard Williams contract?
I was just glad they got off the franchise tag, because then they saved $11 million. We knew he was going to cost 20 plus per year. I expected it. You would have liked to get him for more than 3 years, maybe, but they got him for 3 years. He wants one more probably big contract before it's all said and done. So I expected it in the 20s. It is what it is. I was just glad they got that franchise tag off him.
Yeah, I also think Gettleman should get a little credit here, because I remember when the trade was made, everybody was ripping the Giants for, they get all these draft picks, and Leonard Williams did nothing for the Jets, and it took a year in a new system, but they did get a guy out of there, a guy potential out of him. The Jets thought they were getting him, and they took him with the 6th pick back in 2015.
Yeah, I mean, they gave up, I think, it ended up being the 3rd and the 5th, and, the knock on it was, he was going to be a free agent anyway, but because he was a Giant, they franchised him, and because he was still a Giant, they were able to franchise him again until they worked the long-term deal out. So I think Giant fans have forgiven Dave Gettleman completely for that trade, especially since he had 11.5 sacks last year and really played up to that 6 overall potential. Yeah,
for sure. Having him back helped. The big move, though, I think that got everybody's attention, was the Kenny Golladay signing. They gave him $18 million a year, 4-year deal. Yeah. Daniel Jones is his go-to guy. Definitely an overpay in most circles. What do you think about the Kenny Golladay move?
Yeah, they overpaid, but you always do in free agency. I mean, the Giants were desperate for a number 1 receiver, and they really needed to do it because they had the 11th pick. And if they didn't get Golladay, then they really pigeonholed themselves into selecting a receiver at 11. And now they can either trade down. They might still take a receiver, but they can trade down or take the best player available because they have Golladay. So if they didn't sign Golladay, they would have been forced to take a Waddle or Devontae Smith probably at 11, but now it opens it up a bit to take maybe a player at a position that they really need, and it may turn out to be the best player in the draft, like, say, Rashawn Slater. If he was there, he's probably the top guard on the board. He could play tackle. That would be the smart pick for them. But if they don't sign Golladay, it almost forces them to take a wide receiver at that spot.
It certainly makes a lot of sense, and I mean, I get what the argument for the overpay is, but considering what the Giants are trying to do here with Daniel Jones and the fact that, he's probably the best free agent receiver they brought in since Plaxico Burress, I would say it's probably still a move they had to make.
It was definitely a move they had to make. It had to kind of satisfy the fan base. Plus, to give Daniel Jones weapons. I mean, Jones, last year he had the line was inconsistent at best and not good at worst. And, you have a tight end that drops everything, Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton, and that's really it. And that's unacceptable in the NFL today. So they really did have to bring in someone. I didn't know it would be Galladay the whole time. I just didn't think they had the money to do it. But once they freed up that franchise tag off of Williams, they had some flexibility. So I was pretty happy with it, even though, they probably did overpay a bit.
Yeah, the other big move they made was the Adoree Jackson sign. They grabbed him after the Titans cut him. I mean, Jackson, when he's on the field, he can play. Everybody knows this, but he's missed a lot of games the last couple of years. They gave him a lot of money.
Yeah.
And he's the number 2 guy opposite James Bradbury. What do you think about Adoree Jackson for the Giants?
That was a surprise in that I thought they were going to go with Julian Love as their second corner until they did something in this draft, right? So, like I said, once they signed Galladay, then it's like, oh, take the best player available. If that best player available happened to be a Patrick Surtain, if you fell to him, or a Horn, or Caleb Farley, then they could take a corner. And you know what? They still might. I don't think they will, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. But when they got Adoree Jackson, it was like, wow, they're really fortifying the outside now. Now, all of a sudden, Julian Love is a third corner and a very good one at that. And, you have Darnay Holmes in the slot, and they're loaded at safety. All of a sudden, that Giants secondary, if they're healthy, it could be the strength. I mean, it's the strength of the defense. I thought the safeties were the strength of the defense last year, and you have Xavier McKinney in his second year. It's going to be the catalyst for defensive success for them this year, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And those are big needs they fill. Are there any needs that you're surprised that Gettleman didn't really address in free agency?
Offensive line, I guess. I mean, I don't know who was out. I mean, there wasn't anyone that jumped out like, oh, they have to go get this guy. But the fact that they cut Zeiler, and I understand why they did, because they saved $12 million. But you did cut your best lineman, arguably your best offensive lineman from last year. Now you have Will Hernandez and Shane Lemieux as your guards. You have to find a guard in this draft, whether it's first, second, third round. And I just don't see them going with Will Hernandez at right guard or Shane Lemieux at right guard for the with Hernandez at left guard. I imagine they have to upgrade that spot. So I guess it's hard to be disappointed in a free agency that they just had, because they filled so many needs or supplemented their roster so well. But I guess if I had to pick one, it's that offensive line is still extremely shaky right now going into the draft. So, but look, this is why you have the draft. So they're very likely to add a guard in the first, second, or third round, I would imagine.
Yeah, one other thing I was surprised about with them is I was surprised they didn't really go after an edge rusher, because, I mean, they've been trying to find a pass rusher since JPP got traded to the Buccaneers. So I was surprised there were a lot of options. Surprised they didn't really dip their toe in the water there.
Well, because they signed Galladay to such a big contract and Jackson, how much money was left, right? I've been wanting, and I know that the numbers aren't there, but I've been in love with Jadeveon Clowney for years, and when he wants to play, I think he's one of the best defensive ends in the league. He's just got to be motivated. Like, you saw what he can do in Philly when he played for Seattle. That's the kind of player he can be. But they did sign Odenigbo as an edge rusher. They will likely bring one in. I mean, the first 3 rounds, it's like you would imagine there's going to be guard, some type of receiver, whether it's tight end or wide receiver, and edge rusher. And now they may take an edge rusher at 11. My partner and I, Chris, hope they don't, because it's really that 15 to 25, those spots that those edge rushers should fall in. We hope they trade down if they're going to do that, and then get an edge rusher there. So there are a lot to be had in this draft. You could grab one in the first or second round, but it didn't stun me. And they're still high on Lorenzo Carter. They're not giving up on O'Shane Ximines. So they do have a lot of question marks, though. You're right, at edge rusher.
Yeah, let's go to the draft now. You brought them up. They're sitting at number 11 right now. They're in an interesting spot where, I mean, the most mock names of them would seem to be Rashawn Slater, the lineman out of Northwestern. I feel like he'd be a fantastic pick there. Like, do you think he would be the best choice on the board, or what else do you think the Giants could do if they stay at 11?
If he's there and you're picking, I just, Giants, don't overthink this. Just take the kid. He's your guard for the next, hopefully, 8 to 10 years. Maybe even tackle if you want to play him at tackle. I don't care. Move Matt Pert. I don't know. I mean, I'm just speculating. I would imagine they keep Pert at right tackle, and then Slater would play guard. But don't overthink this. I would take him. I just worry that he's not going to be there. Like, the Giants' not doomsday scenario. Well, I call it doomsday scenario. You have 3 quarterbacks going in the top 10. Then you're going to have 3 wide receivers. That's 6. a tight end 7. Now you're picking 8, 9, and 10. You're going to have Penny Sewell going somewhere, and then Slater. And it's like, who's going to be left, right? Like, and then if another quarterback goes, then that's a good thing. But by the time the Giants pick, if a corner goes, then it's like, all right, well, what do they have left? You lost your 2 linemen, all 3 receivers. The tight end. It's like there is a scenario where the Giants could say, we have to either take Micah Parsons or the best edge rusher or trade down. I mean, it's unlikely. Someone will probably fall to them, but there is a scenario that could play out where the Giants kind of get screwed there a little bit.
Yeah, I think if you're a Giant fan, I think the thing you're hoping for is that the more quarterbacks go in the top 10, the better. It pushes more talent down towards the Giants at 11.
Right. You want 4. The best scenario for the Giants is for 4 quarterbacks to go. Like they go 1, 2, 3, and then maybe someone trades up, or the Broncos take one, or even the Panthers. Maybe the Panthers take one. Maybe Justin Fields falls to them, and they're like, you know what, we got to pick this guy. We just traded for Darnold, but we have to take Justin Fields. So, the best scenario for them is 4 quarterbacks. I mean, a great scenario would be 5. But if 4 quarterbacks fall to them, then the Giants have options. If there's a guy there, if Slater's there, or say Devontae Smith is there, or Waddle, and they still trade down, I'm okay with that, because that means they probably got a 2nd-round pick in addition to it, and they'll still get a very good player. But if Slater's there, you cannot fault the Giants for just grabbing him at 11.
Yeah, I can't either. I think the thing that fascinates me is, like, if he's not there, and Dave Gettleman has historically just never traded down, he refuses to do it, and I'm like, this would be the year to do it, especially if there's like a quarterback sliding down that board. Somebody would probably want to go up there and get him to block the Patriots, or potentially something like that to go up there, maybe get the Bears at 19 and 20 to get desperate.
Well, those are the 2 teams you keep looking at, that if only 3 quarterbacks go, and a Justin Fields or Trey Lance is still there, and it's like, or Mac Jones, then it's like, wow, guys, like, make the call. How bad do the Patriots want to move up and take because Cam Newton's not the answer. The Bears don't have, the red rifle. He's not the guy. And even if the Giants have to go down to 20, it's like, well, if we drop 9, you're giving us your 2nd, you're giving us, maybe a 4th or a 2nd next year or something. So there's options for them. If that's the other thing, if only a couple quarterbacks go and they're still on the board, the Giants have options there.
Yeah, they do. And I think it'll be a very fun draft for them. And I think, assuming they draft a line here, I think that's probably the most likely path here. Assuming they do that, do you think they have done enough to help Daniel Jones take a leap forward in year 3?
He has to. Or they're going to have to move on. They've given him weapons. They're going to improve the line. They're going to probably give him another weapon in the draft. Right? They're going to take some type of receiver in the top 4 rounds. Maybe it's another tight end or a wide out or somebody. I have to think they're going to bring somebody in. I look at Freiermuth from Penn State, maybe in the 2nd round if he's there. But they're going to give him something, and they're probably going to give him a guard to protect him. So he's going to have to take that next step, because now, if he doesn't, you're going to be in year 4 next year, and you're going to have a question mark around your quarterback who isn't going to be playing on that rookie deal much longer. So he's got to do it. He's got to show improvement this year. Numbers have to improve, but can't fault him for last year, really, because he did get careful with the football, especially later in the season, cut down on the fumbles, cut down on the interceptions. But this is going to be his year to show improvement.
Yeah, I think it's a big year for him and for that team, because, last year they were literally the Eagles tanking a half away from making the playoffs, and Dallas will be better. Washington's defense will be good. They still have questions at the quarterback. The Giants have a good defense. Do you think, as they're built right now, assuming they make some good picks in the draft, can they challenge this division?
Oh, yeah, this division's wide open. Eagles are terrible. Dallas is good, but they have no secondary. They can't stop anybody. But I would imagine they take a corner at 10. If they don't and they take Slater, I guess I could see it, but if they don't take Surtain or Horn or Farley, what are they doing? Like, if I'm a Dallas fan, it's like, oh, we're going to build offensive line more. Okay, but we can't stop anybody. So Dallas can't stop anyone. The team you worry about the most is the Washington football team. And if they add a quarterback, somebody asked the other night on our podcast, would you trade with them? And it's like, hell no. They're a quarterback away from being a perennial playoff team, because they are absolutely loaded on defense. They have weapons on the outside now. They have a running game. I hope they go with Fitzpatrick this year, because if they get somehow Mac Jones or Justin Fields or Trey Lance, it could be a very long next few years, next decade, for the rest of the division. I think they're that good.
Yeah, I would agree with that sentiment. I mean, I'm a Jet fan myself, and it's like the same idea when people were talking about the Jets to get a haul for two. I'm like, it would not come from the Patriots because the Jets have learned not to help that franchise out. Now,
did you think they were going to give up on Darnold?
I did. That was my hunch on that because I figured this the way with the organization was set up with the new GM. With the GM is basically coming in 4 more years. The coach coming in set him up and the quarterback up on the same timetable. Though that made the most sense.
I agree. I thought it was the smart move. I didn't know what they were going to do. But with a new coach, you get a new quarterback, you get your guy, do it the right way, and then you have him on a rookie deal. And then Wilson's got a ton of talent. So I was just curious what you thought.
No, I think they're both these teams have had good offseason. I think the Giants are obviously the closer ones to getting to the postseason. So I'm going to be very interested to see what this team looks like when they take the field next year.
Yeah.
All right, Jerry. Thanks for all the time. I really appreciate it. Before I let you go, I'll give you a follow you guys on social media. Keep up with the Giant Insider podcast and newsletter.
Absolutely. You can go to www.thegiantinsider.com to order a paper copy. We still have a paper copy of the Insider. We are monthly in the off season, and during the season, we're every other week. And then the podcast is on all the major platforms, iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all those. And the Twitter account is @GiantInsider.
All right. Make sure you follow all those. Check out the paper version. Jerry, thanks again. I really appreciate it.
All right, man. Thank you.